I understand that many of you, actually we have people and visitors from 80 different countries. So Malaysians? Malaysians? Malaysia? Okay, you guys are there. All right. Thank you so much again for having me. It's such a pleasure for me to be standing here today. I guess I'll start by sharing with you a little story. A story that you may not even be interested in, but I'm going to tell you anyways. A story which is called The Story of My Life, right? You see, I came from a very traditional Chinese family. Any Chinese here? Chinese, right? Oh, a lot, good. Then you know what I mean. I came from a very traditional Chinese family, on top of no sleeping over at your boyfriend's, have dinner before 7 p.m. My parents also used to tell us that you can either be a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure. And whose parents tell them that to? Anyone? Oh, I feel deeply for you, okay? And my sister ended up being a doctor, me a lawyer, and my brother an engineer. So guess who's the failure in my home, at home, right? So for those that are maybe not so familiar with the education system in Malaysia, I went to primary school and I did this exam called the PTS, which doesn't exist anymore. Not because I'm a dinosaur, but because the government of Malaysia has decided to abandon the exam a few years after implemented the exam. So what the exam actually allows you is to skip 1 year of your primary school and do a double promotion from primary 3 to 5, okay? And unfortunately and fortunately at the same time, I was the only one in the whole school to pass the exam. And that definitely came as a surprise because I was never even close to being a top student in my school. And once you get past the exam, you actually get an option whether to take it or to leave it. And I'm never a quitter, so guess what? I took it. No, that's jokes. Because what did I know when I was 9 years old, right? So all I wanted to is basically to shorten the academic year between my sister and I so that she can stop bullying me. And that decision is what I always tell people, the end, okay, the end of my childhood. Because in order to compensate the loss of the 1 year, I had to go to school at 7 in the morning every day, whereas my friends only start their school at 7:45. I will end my school at 1 o'clock. I'll go for tuition from 2 to 4, and another tuition from 5 to 7 on a daily basis, every single day, 7 days for a week. And after dinner time, right, you continue to do your homework, and I sleep at 12 to 1 a.m. every day, and that repeats. I swear, with whatever I have on my plate now, I have never in my life worked as hard as when I was at 10 years old, okay? So you can imagine the rest is just downhill. It's so easy because you work so hard already when you're 10 years old. But if you ask me, when I was at 10, did I know why I was working so hard? Did I know I was working so hard because I wanted to be a brilliant lawyer in the future? It's a good path to being a lawyer. I'll tell you, no way, man. I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to get over and done with and pass my exam. Fortunately, I did okay, I did well. I went to high school, and my parents finally left me alone to do whatever I want. So I joined this marching band. I don't know why whatever I joined is so extreme. The marching band actually practices from 8:30 to 4:30 every day. So I used to be darker than a charcoal, seriously. I was super dark when I was younger. And I did pure science subject because honestly, I wanted to be a doctor. Not like I have many choice, I only have doctor or a lawyer. So I actually wanted to be a doctor. And your Chinese parents, again, the Chinese here, your parents will tell you, do science subjects. Because if you ever want to switch to doing art, you can do it like that. You can just switch. I guess, to a certain extent, they were right, because after 4 years of doing pure science subjects, I decided to take a sharp U-turn to change to doing law after my A-levels. But I guess what was not right about my parents is I didn't switch like that. It wasn't that easy. It requires some hard work, okay? So don't trust your parents fully. And I went to UK to do my law education. I did my law degree. There's nothing very spectacular to share about my uni life, unless if you want to listen to all the partying and late nights and crazy stories, which I guess it's not appropriate for me to share here as well. And I went to do my bar in London, and that's when something happened, an incident that actually makes me who I am today, an incident that makes me the reason for me to be standing here sharing with you my journey, my story. So I remember it was winter time. So for those who have been to UK before, anyone from England? Woo! Yeah, so for those who have been to UK before, you know UK winter is no joke until they got struck by a heat wave this time. But it was really, really cold. And like all of you, I was young and maybe a little stupider than you. I used to love to throw house parties. And you know house parties, no one ever eats anything. I don't know why we even bother to order like pizza and fried chicken. So the next day, I brought the food which were not consumed down to my apartment. Just when I wanted to leave the food next to a bin below my apartment, I saw this man, right? This man sitting across the street. And it was winter, but the man was not wearing any jacket. What surprised me was next to him was his dog, and his dog was wearing a human jacket. Okay. And just when I thought the man was approaching the food, trying to consume them, because I swear he looked like he hasn't been eating for days, the first thing he did was to pick up the food and feed them to his dog. So at that point, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether it's because it was cold, I was depressed, I was alone. It really struck me so hard to think, what am I doing with my life? If this man with so little means can do so much for something that he cared about, I'm sure all of us, you, me, who are a little more fortunate, can do so much more for the people who we care, for the people around us. So after that day, I started to volunteer myself in different courses in the UK. And I came back, I continued to do the same. I used to teach in a Down syndrome school for 2 years. A year after I got promoted to become a partner of the firm, I decided to set up an organization called SESO, SESO, which stands for Safe Environment, Save Ourselves. Basically, what we do, we try to combat food waste and to reduce food poverty at the same time. And we basically collect surplus, and the volunteers will cook them into a 3-course meal. Because unlike other soup kitchens, we emphasize a lot on promoting inclusion. So every time when we serve our food, we actually bring our tables and chairs like a pop-up restaurant and sit down together to share a story, to share a meal with the people who need this food, people who are suffering from food insecurity. And we do it every week, every alternate week, in fact. And now we have actually expanded not just in KL, Kuala Lumpur City, we are also expanding to other states. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my story, and this is my journey of how I got to where I am today. And the reason why I shared my story and my journey with you today is because I'd like to also share 3 life lessons that I learned throughout this journey. So number 1, you don't need to know everything now. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to be the Mr. Know Everything, okay? It's okay to not to know, because I didn't know that I was going to become a lawyer when I was in my primary school. But look at me now. I'm like the partner of one of the biggest firms in Malaysia, and I was actually made partner. I was the youngest to meet partner ever in my firm. I didn't, thank you. I also didn't know that I was going to set up an organization of my own. All I wanted to do is to do something for the man, or something for people who I care for. But look at where CESO is today as well. We used to feed 40 people per session, and I remember frying egg, fried egg at home using my single pan 40 times, because we have to feed like 40 people. That's just pure stupidity. You will learn that you can actually cook a big pot of curry or something, which is much more efficient. But today, every session, we actually cook we serve more than 100 packs, and we have more than 10 institutional beneficiaries parked under our wings, including orphanages, old folks' home, basically people who need food. You just need to give us a call, and we'll cook a 3-course meal and serve it to you, right? So you don't need to know everything at this point. Things will kind of fall in place. Second, it's good to always have a dream. Your parents tell you to have a dream. And if you feel you have such a burning, dying dream that you have to fulfill, go and join Asia's Got Talent, or UK's Got Talent, or America's Got Talent, okay? Because if not, life, I tell you, can be very long. And if your whole life you're only working towards one big dream, you may be dead before you even achieve the dream. So have shorter goals in different phases of life. Maybe like at this stage, just to pass your exams, just have shorter goals in life so that it's easier to achieve. Have some pit stops in life so that you can like drink some water, have some food, pump your petrol, and you will realize the journey is so much easier to go through because you have so much to look forward to for the next destination. Number 3, if you have the heart to do something, which very often I get people telling me that they want to do something, but you have no heart to do anything, I can't help you here, okay? I'm saying if you have the heart to actually want to do something and contribute back to the society, just do it. Do it now, because the longer you drag not to do it, the more you will tell yourself that you can't do it. If you want to do something, do it now. Do it following your heart. And it doesn't need to be big. It can be something small. It doesn't need to be food waste, like what CESO, what I have fallen in love with. It can be any other causes. There are so many causes around the world. There are so many things that you can help with. It doesn't need to be big. And one thing, you don't need to always have to change the world. Because what I can assure you, even without changing the world, you can change someone's world. Okay, by just maybe giving a meal, smiling, you can change someone's world. And that's the 3 lessons that I really learned throughout my journey. And last but not least, before I open the floor up for some questions, it's something that I would really like to promote for the cause that I believe in, for the Malaysians that we have here and for everyone. I'm sure this is nothing new, but everyone knows that climate change is real. And for ages, we have been talking about CO2, plastics. Why are we not putting more emphasis on food waste? For Malaysia, we waste 16,000 tons of food every day, which can feed like 2 million people 3 courses a day. And this food waste, if it goes to landfill, will release methane, which is a gas 30 times more harmful than CO2. So why are we not doing something which sounds like the dumbest problem in the world, where on one hand, we have people going hungry, and on the other, we are wasting all our food, throwing all of them away. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're all young people, and this is exactly why you guys are so important. because we are the future, and we have the responsibility. We have to be responsible for our children, our children's children. The future relies on you. So if you want to do something, if you have the heart to do something, just do it today. So that's the end of what I have to share today. If you have any questions, not the difficult ones, not too difficult, please, but I'll try my best to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Good morning. First, I'd like to say thank you for inspiring speech. And I'm Zhang Yifan from Sichuan University of China. In China, in 2013, we have an empty plate campaign held in China. It advocates people to finish all the food taken into their plates, and it aims to reduce the food waste. But I admit that it has aroused people's attention, people's awareness to this issue, but like 6 years later now, I think it's kind of forgotten and it's kind of abandoned. So I wonder if you have any advice for us to hold like a more long-lasting, a more effective campaign or anything to get everyone, every citizen involved in this thing. Thank you.
I think compared to other countries, I'm sure China is one of the hardest to implement an empty plate culture, since the more food, the better.
Yeah.
It's a very, very tough question actually, because that's what we find as difficult too in Malaysia. Food waste, again, it's something that you can't see now of the cause and the result, because I can only tell you don't waste food, don't waste food. But what's the result of it? We can't see it maybe until 50 years later, 100 years later. So how am I going to advocate that this thing gonna cause a serious impact on Earth, for example? It's unlike, orphanages or a cancer patient, which straight away I can touch your heart because you're seeing the result or the cause of this person, right? So I guess to answer you, and ideally what we try to do is to get the government to be involved. Any governmental officer here from Malaysia, please don't take my words for it, I'm just saying ideally, that's what we try to do. And like a few of the countries which have successfully done this very, very well is they have implemented legislation in their law so that everyone has to do it as an obligation. And of course, the constant awareness and campaigns that you run, but it's not something that you can change in a day. So not to burst the bubble, but the truth is it just takes time for people to be more aware of the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Yifan. Hello, Shuan.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leslie. I'm from the same university, Sichuan University, China. So, just like you said, in China, it's a similar situation to Malaysia. Like, the more food, the better. So, it's like you said, raise people's awareness of don't waste food. But how can, in specific aspect, how do they know the consequence or the demerits of wasting food? And will you establish like a base or organization in China? Because China has a lot of amount of wasting food. And what's more is that how do you make sure the food is safe for people to eat? Because we know that some food would be going bad after several time, especially like in hot area, like in Malaysia. So, thanks.
There are a few questions there. Number one, if we are going to set a base in China, I would definitely want to, but that will require, it's a long-term plan, definitely. I would love to dream big, and that maybe requires me to quit my job first, my law job, in order to take that further. But definitely it's something that we are working on. What we are working on is to establish a model so that we can use the same concept to franchise the concept. So that's how we are bringing the same concept to different cities in Malaysia. So I guess sooner or later we'll try to approach like Southeast Asia with the same principle and concept. In terms of food safety, this is something very important and very fundamental for people who are doing food waste in this area. So there are a few general rules. Number one, we don't take protein. which is like chicken, fish, and all that. Because these food, you can't see with your bare eyes whether they are safe to be consumed, right? Because if there's bacteria inside, if it has gone bad, this is something that we can't determine. So number one rule, we don't take surplus protein. We only get vegetables, which you can see with your bare eyes. If they are dark, they are black, you can just cut them away. Fruits, again, you can see with your bare eyes. So we get surplus grocery, raw materials, basically. And for cooked food, if that's what you mean, cooked food, now Sesso has this platform, it's called FUSH, food sharing, which stands for restaurants to basically put their cooked food on this platform so that regular consumer like you and me can go and try to pick up this food. So I'm not sure whether the same concept you guys have in China, but in Malaysia, let's say, to take an example for a bakery store, okay, after a certain hour before closing, they will slash the price by half to encourage you to go and purchase these items. It's just like in the UK, in Tesco, the bread can go down to 10p or 20p in order to just encourage you to get this item. So we are trying to do the same thing here in Malaysia to get everyone, because it shouldn't be limited to just bread. It should be open to all kind of food.
So it's like maybe we can make a base in China. I mean, the Chinese can do the things because they are a big market, like just as you mentioned. In China, the store there won't be like the cut down the price even if it's expired. So it's a big market.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Over to this side.
Hi, good morning. I'm Justin from Nanyang Technological University. I'm from Singapore. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think it's something similar in Singapore as well about food waste and the use of ugly foods. But I think my question is more about like your personal development and your reasons behind why you set up Sesso. So like you mentioned earlier, in Singapore, we actually have a lot of similar issues where I also spent my entire afternoon in like tuition centers until like 8 p.m. after school and things like that. And everything can be a rat race because it's quite like a traditional kind of Chinese values that our families all have. So, you know, you are an established lawyer and you spend a lot of time developing your career, but how did you end up deciding to do food waste? And was there a trigger that led you to think at one point in time like, okay, I'm going to start doing Sesso and bring a group of people together? Was there a trigger, and what's the reason why you picked food waste in particular? Yeah, thank you.
I think, as mentioned, it was definitely a seed that was planted during my studying days, but I didn't get the chance to do it because, number one, I haven't found something that I really wanted to do. I really tried all causes around the things that you can think of, but personally, I can't deal with children so much because I feel very sad as a person if I volunteer myself. So food waste is a new recent cause, which I actually went back to the UK again to volunteer myself like 2 years ago, and I completely just fell in love with the whole concept. This organization is called Food Cycle in the UK. So they did basically the same thing, but they are luckier in the UK as well as, I'm pretty sure, again, not sure whether it's the same problem, but in Malaysia, we can't use a religion-related sport as the feeding point because we don't want to dilute attention to become a religion-related cause. Okay, but unlike in the UK or maybe some of the countries, they actually have the feeding center in churches or community center, which makes it so much easier. But to answer to your question, the triggering point definitely is because I have joined and volunteered myself in the UK 2 years ago, and I came back and I went to the street of KL to realize sometimes, and this is truly from my heart and my experience that we have been experiencing on the street, it's not about the food that they are lack of sometimes. It's also about having a pair of ears to just listen to their stories. So, and you realize that all these people who are living on the street, they have soon developed depression because there's no one to actually talk to them. And of course, I get a lot of questions as well as to, oh, why are you helping these people? They are not even helping themselves. But there's always bad apples or bad eggs in a basket. There are, of course, some who really require the help because they are financially unstable. And therefore, we are there to share a pair of ears to listen to their stories. At the same time, try to satisfy some basic needs of theirs.
Okay. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Miss, apa khabar? Okay, I'm
Khabar
Mujahid. I'm Mujahid from Islamic Science University of Malaysia. So I have one simple question. How we can help others, why we didn't leave any negative impact to the government, such as the government didn't provide a job opportunity for the homeless or for their people, or the government didn't help the poor people. How can we help while we didn't leave any negative impact to the government?
As in, how can we solve all these problems? Social problems, is it? Is
Yeah,
that your question?
how we can help others while we didn't give any negative impact to the government, such as people, the perspective will be like the government didn't help the poor people, the government didn't provide a job opportunity to the people, and something like that.
How do we get government involved? Is your question, how do we get government involved?
Yes.
How do we get government involved? That's a very tricky question, and also, I guess what I can say is everyone plays their own role. Sometimes if we keep depending on the government to do everything, things may not get done forever, right? So I guess everyone plays their own role, and like I said, it doesn't need to be a big change to provide like job opportunity tomorrow to like every homeless person. I guess you just do whatever you can at this point within your means. So that's what we are trying to do at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Dai Yue from Northwest University in China. Nice to meet you. And your speech is very inspiring. And I'm also a traditional Chinese student who is preparing all the examination in Chinese education system. And I also have a struggle time for my homework, for my study. I stay up late for a long time. But I'm lucky I have very kind parents that give me the patience for my study, led me to find the career I really love to do. But I have friends who really have the talent in drawing, and he spent nearly 10 years for that, but his parents don't want him to do that and want him to get a stable job, and even don't allow him to do any more about his drawing. So what do you think about the guys like him, if he have to choose the traditional way, or he have to just do what he like because his parents love him and is which they think is good to him? And the next question is, there's a traditional saying in China is you have to do before you talk. So that means you have to do some achievements so that you then you just talk about it. Because if you talk it before, others will not believe you. So what do you think about it? Should we just, because some of we do volunteers, so we should let others to join us, but how can we just let others to choose us these right things? Because in our China, the high score is not easy to get. We don't have enough time to do other things. Yeah, thank you.
I think to your first question, I may look old, but just to qualify, I'm not a parent yet, so I can't speak for all parents around the world. But I think coming from experience, based on my personal experience, as well as maybe some of the parents' perspective, I would advise your friend to not give up his talent as well as what he likes to do, but at the same time pursue whatever the parents want him to pursue. It's just like what I did. I did my law first, and until I became a partner, I feel like, career-wise, I'm quite settled, and I have finally time to do what I really love. So it's never too late, but don't let that seed go. Don't let, that burning heart, the enthusiasm go. That's most important. So you can do it in a later stage of your hobby or whatever talent that you want to pursue. So I guess because he's also still young, he can just do what his parents want him to do first, then pursue what he wants to do in the future when he's more in charge of his life. And second question, yes, I guess 身体力行, right? Like the Chinese saying. I think it's important. So to start off, maybe to convince people, you can try to volunteer yourself first instead of just form an organization like myself and to ask people to join you. Maybe you can go with some friends to go together and volunteer together. So it becomes like an equal platform whereby everyone is just assisting. So the more you do, then you will have more example to showcase in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
you. If you'd like to
Hello,
start.
I'm Yawen. I'm a student from Monash University, and my major is environment and sustainability. Last term, we made a survey about food waste in Monash University Clinton campus, and we make survey, and we found that most of food in the restaurant will be just thrown away. So we give some advice, like why not do some donation, but the manager told us they worried about something like food safety problem. Once the poor eat the food, maybe they get sick, and then it will ruin their reputation as well. So my question is how to persuade the restaurant do some donation because they have this concerning.
I think that's a very valid question, and it's a very important question as well, because when it comes to food safety, and if you're asking the restaurants or the hotels to donate the food, of course they are concerned because they can't assure, or you can't assure the transportation, right? So from one end, the food may be safe to be consumed, but by the time you deliver to your beneficiaries, it may already go like bad, right? So I mean, just speaking from Cecil's perspective, we never take cooked food from restaurants because at this point, we don't have the facility like many other countries, organizations in many countries where they have very, very extensive storage system. Like they can freeze the food for a very, very long time and then heat it up again to ensure safety. But at this point, like for Malaysia, we are not doing that. So what Cecil does is we created a platform for the restaurants to actually go there to sell this food. So people pick it up from the restaurant. In that sense, the restaurant can ensure that the food, when they sell it to the consumers, they are still safe to be consumed. Morning.
My name is Maya. I'm representing the University of Alberta from Canada. So my question had to do with a little bit of what you said earlier about your family experience and being in different fields. I could relate to that on a very deep level because I also come from quite a traditional family, not Chinese, but Middle Eastern.
Okay.
And
so no sleeping over at boys'
yeah,
house too.
definitely no sleeping over.
Oh, sorry, not that part.
None of that. Okay. But anyways, so I wanted to know what was your technique in stopping yourself, I guess, from comparing yourself to your siblings? Because I'm personally pursuing a field in psychiatry and researching clinical psychology. All my older siblings are in medicine, and so there's a constant kind of a little bit of a battle going on of who's achieving more than the other, which is interesting because I think many people can relate. I don't really feel a sense of inadequacy to anyone else, but it's kind of like a family thing. So what's your strategy or your technique that you use to overcome that negative thinking pattern of comparing yourself to your siblings who are in the, I guess, the ideal fields for your parents?
I think I don't have a very good tip for that because I was constantly comparing myself to my sister.
Yeah.
And I guess I just grew out of it. So my solution is the time will tell, in the sense that you will give up comparing. My sister is a doctor, come on. Like, she scores a 98 for her advanced mathematics, and she came back crying, saying that she did so badly for her exam.
Yeah.
Whereas I only scored like 70 and I was happily going out. So I mean, I just gave up comparing to my sister who loves to like study and so good in exams. But I guess the reason why we compare ourselves so much when we're younger, and I did the same as well, probably at your age, it's the sense of insecurity, and everyone wants to be better, right? And sometimes your parents may say they are not giving you pressure, but they are subconsciously saying that, oh, your sister did so well, and all that nonsense, yada yada, which but thank God, my brother is just an engineer, so I got neutralized from that. But I guess the best advice is focus on what you truly believe you want to do, and sooner or later, when age comes, you will grow out of it. Then you'll be like, oh, so silly to compare. You will, yeah. So that's the only thing I can promise you. But at this point, just don't feel insecure or compare yourself. Whatever your parents say, just whatever, Sorry, parents, no. This is not the best advice, and I'm being caught on video. But I mean, you'll grow out of it. You'll grow out of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Good morning, Ms. Zhi. I'm Ding Yue, come from East China University and Science and Technology in Shanghai. I totally agree with you what you say, that we can't do everything, we can't know everything. Yeah, we should coordinate with others. But Stephen Jobs said, stay hungry, stay foolish. Is also very keen to learn new knowledge. Yeah, so my question is, how did you tell or distinguish this knowledge whether you need to learn or not? Thank you.
Sorry, what knowledge? What kind of knowledge?
New knowledge.
New knowledge, oh.
Yeah.
I guess, again, when you have limited time, then you will choose the knowledge that you need. So I've been telling people I have not read a storybook or a fiction book for the longest time because I simply just have got no time. And my books are all, Singaporean here, you understand, my books are all very kiasu, which means scared to lose. So when I was doing my law career, the only books I was reading, because I was lack of time, was books which can help with my career. So now, of course, because I'm expanding to food waste and food safety and all that, the focus for me at the moment is like food-related knowledge. So it really depends what kind of knowledge you want to learn. But if you're just curious human being, you want to learn everything under the sun, nothing is stopping you. And we all have Googles and stuff. And maybe not in China, sorry. But so to answer to your question, focus on what you really want to learn, and I guess that's the first step of distinguishing the knowledge that you should or you shouldn't gain from learning.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Over to this
Good
side.
morning, Ms. Shiwen. My name is Idayu, and I'm from International Islamic University, Malaysia. And I think that there is a very strong connection with what your organization fights for and what that we face at our university. So basically, I'm in the student council, and we find out that more than 50% of the students, they belong to the bottom income group students. And we have seen initiatives from all parties. For example, the Malaysian government has introduced the Food Bank Malaysia, where they would distribute foods to needy people, as well as our university have this food coupon, and there is an external organization who come in and introduce all free food app where they can distribute foods. But at the same time, we see that there are still students who we could not reach these students despite all these many initiatives. So what is your advice in terms of the strategies that we as student representatives can take in the light of your organization? Like, what are the 1 to 3 steps that we can do to cater these needy students? Because I am also aware that throughout the year we have over 200 programs at our university, meaning every time there are food, and we know how much Malaysians love to eat. So food wastage is very high at our university. So what is your advice on that?
I think, like all advice that I always give in terms of solving this food waste issue, apart from it's not a one-day solution, it's more of identify a specific community. So like you said, it's very, very good. You guys have already started from your university. So instead of reaching out of students outside your university, first focus on students who actually really need help or like are suffering from food insecurity. So after identifying the beneficiaries, so-called, and you can reach out to not just my organization and all the organizations out there to try to channel the food to them. But even if you don't reach out from the organizations, like you mentioned, you have 200 programs or events like every year, try to do a collaboration with the university when they organize these events. Where do the food go to? So it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't always need to start big. You can always start just within your household, your neighborhood, even your university. So maybe you can, we can keep in touch later or something, and we can have a program just for your university to start handling the 200 program food waste and channel them to the beneficiaries.
So that's possible to
Yeah,
collaborate?
yeah, that's
okay, thank you
definitely-
so much.
yeah.
Really so
That's
helpful.
awesome. Thank you so much.